Ohayou gozaimasu minasan. Actually, konbanwa desu. It's nighttime right now here in Osaka, about 8 p.m. First of all, let me apologize if I'm not always looking into the webcam. I'm using my laptop's webcam right now, and it's a little awkward looking at the webcam and seeing myself down here on the video. So I'm actually going to take that off for a second. First off, let me let me let me bring up my camera here. This is my Leica. I love this camera. It's great for what I do. I do street photography, I do model photography, I do concert photography once in a while, and occasionally I do sports photography, mostly running right now, but back in Colorado I was taking photos of cycling races. Why did I buy this camera? How did I get into it? First off, it's got a great aperture ring on all the lenses that make this nice clicky sound because I'm ADD like that now. Anyways, so when I first got into photography, it was about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I got myself an old Nikon DSLR. It was a crop sensor. I can't remember what the model was, but either way, I used it 2 times and then it got stolen. Go figure, right? So I didn't get back into the photography world for a few years after that. When I got back into it, I'd been using little compact cameras for a while. When I decided to get more serious about photography, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to get my first full frame camera. I looked at DSLRs, I looked at Nikons, Canons, I looked at mirrorless cameras. This was, I looked at all sorts of cameras. This one, yes, this $6,000 camera body with lenses that range anywhere from $300 to $10,000. This camera was the one for me. Why? Because it was intuitive. And this is where my little rant starts. Whenever I look at a Nikon or a Canon, I get a little frustrated. For example, I've been looking at the new Nikon D750 lately, as well as the Canon the 7D Mark II, and I can't help but feel like the camera manufacturers, the big two basically, are doing it completely wrong. I consider myself a professional now, and I love this Leica. I love it, but I've gotten to the point where, yeah, I would like autofocus capability at some point. I would like to find a cheaper camera that I can still use for street photography, for photojournalism, and also have the ability to get into macro photography and continue doing my modeling and concert photography and sports photography as well. But there's no camera out there that can replace this beautiful beast right here. And let me explain why that is. On both the consumer side and the professional side, there's no camera out there that you can just pick up right now, no full frame camera I should say, that you can pick up right now and say, there's my ISO, there's my shutter speed, there's my aperture, boom, I'm ready to take photos. There isn't. I know what you're all saying, Canon guys, Nikon guys, I know what you're all saying, you can do that. Well, no, you can't. You can't just pick up a Nikon or a Canon and go out and take photos. So, okay, I understand you can put it in auto mode and just go crazy with auto mode. Cool. But I love manual focusing. I mean, hell, I have a Leica. Go figure, it's all manual. So for just as recently as the last few days, I've been looking at the Nikon D750, and I would pick it up, and I would say, how do I change my aperture and my shutter speed and my ISO? Well, there's nothing properly labeled on there. I did find that, if you look on this camera, imagine it was a Nikon, there's a dial up here, and then there's a dial back here. And I found that, yeah, I was moving dials and everything. Yeah, this one changes aperture, this one changes shutter speed. But I couldn't figure out how to take it out of auto ISO. There was an ISO button on the back of the camera like this, but even though I could change my ISO, it would automatically revert to auto mode. Even though I had manual selected on the dial, it would just go back to auto ISO. I could not figure out how to change it out. And on top of that, it took me a while just to figure out how to change those three settings. To me, Nikon and Canon just loses it on the intuitive side. And I think with anybody looking to get a new camera, a different model, whether it's a Nikon, a Canon, a Sony, a Fujifilm, anything, all the manufacturers are failing their customers, both their pros and both the consumers that are trying to get into professional photography. This thing has shutter, aperture, and yes, this is a flub, unlike a Part 2, ISO mode. I wish they could put an ISO dial right here. So, why not? Nikon, Canon, Leica, you can do better. This is a discussion that had come up between me and a friend before, but simply put, if Nikon, before I go on there, let's move on to the size. This size is perfect for street photography and photojournalism. And as well as concert photography. Quite honestly, this is great. I mean, obviously, it's great for street photography because it's non-intrusive, it's small, and it's lightweight. And it's compact. Now I know that the Nikon F3, one of the best film cameras ever made, is not that much smaller than a Nikon D750. But Nikon and Canon could still do better. I believe they could. They just don't want to because money and marketing. Here is, in my opinion, what the perfect camera could be right now. I'm going to bring up my list here. First, obviously, DSLR that has an optical viewfinder. I know EVFs have come a long way, but to me, EVFs are still they still don't provide the kind of visual experience they can get from an optical viewfinder. So, putting that aside, make a camera with all the controls you need to change your lighting on the camera, physically on the camera. Properly labeled and everything like this, like here. Shutter speed, put an ISO dial on there. Aperture on your lens or on your camera where you can change your aperture. After that, make the body weather sealed. Weather sealed body, make it full frame. Give it a 8,000 shutter speed. 8,000 shutter speed is really nice to have because I know in bright daylight, if I want to shoot f1.5 or f2, a shutter speed of 4,000 is just not going to cut that light down enough. 5 to 6 frames per second would be great. And what else? Wi-Fi. Yeah, you need Wi-Fi these days. I'm sorry, but Nikon is like, and even Canon has thrown Wi-Fi into their cameras like it's an afterthought. Wi-Fi is important because social media is important, especially for wedding photographers and sports photographers, I imagine. The ability to take your JPEGs out of your camera and put it directly on the internet. At that point, you are then competing against all your iPhone users, especially in weddings. Weddings, everybody's got an iPhone. They're going to get their pictures onto social media faster than you are as the professional paid-for photographer. You need Wi-Fi in your cameras. What else here do I got? Yeah, so make it the size of a Nikon F3 or smaller, and you would have an excellent body that I think every single professional photographer would take a real good hard look at and buy it. And as far as lenses, make adapters. Make it fit your Tamron lenses straight out of the box, and make adapters for your Canons, your Nikons, your Leica lenses. Make adapters for those three major manufacturers, and you would be golden. And I bet if you kept all the bloat out of it, Um, yeah, you can make your camera be $1,500 or less. And the smart manufacturer would allow the ability to wirelessly update your camera's firmware through Wi-Fi. Oh, hey, didn't we mention that before? Um, and also download apps like you do on your iPhone or your iPad. You want a new film mode? Download that app. Download it and put it in your camera. Why not? It should be that simple, but it isn't. Why? Money and marketing. That's the only reason I can think of. If Nikon or Canon came out with a camera that I just described that cost under $1,500, all their other cameras would be undercut. All the pros would go for those cameras, except for the specialty cameras like the sports camera that shoots 5 to 10 frames a second, or I'm sorry, 10 or more frames per second. Oh yeah, and 22 megapixel sensor. Yeah, I think that's a good file size for that. Anything bigger than 22 megapixel, your file size is going to start getting pretty big, which would be great for certain photographers. And, they can be later on down the line. I know that there's no perfect camera out there, but I think that would be pretty damn close. Intuitivity. That's what it really comes down to. Anybody new to the photography world, anybody new to the pro photography world, should be able to pick up any camera out there right now, look at it and say, hey, there's all my lighting controls. I can go shoot. When I got this Leica, I took it out of the box. I literally took it out of the box, charged batteries, put it in there, and went and shot before I even looked in the manual. That's how it should be. Any person buying a new camera should be able to pick up their camera, put it in full manual mode, change the settings you need right on the camera without even having to go into these menus here. That's just annoying as hell. And go out and shoot. And then once they get back, dive into the manual. Check out how to make all those custom settings. Check out how to make all those custom programmable settings for like your wedding, your landscape, your street photography, all that. But nobody's making it. Give me $10 million. I'll design the damn thing and I'll market it. Guarantee you will make money. Anyways, feel free to discuss this down below in the comments and let me know what you think. Peace off.